Hey, awesome people. Welcome back to the page. Today we're we're going to do a quick review on The Last of Us episode 6. It's entitled Kin. And basically, we start out with a 3-month jump. We find Joel and Ellie are basically holding an elderly couple hostage in their cabin. Graham Greene, he's an actor, plays the older man, and really super funny. Who's this little psycho is one of my favorite quotes that he basically says about Ellie as she comes running down his stairs holding her gun. This is also when we start seeing Joel have a panic attack. Like, this was a deviation from the game. Joel basically, for the most part, remains pretty close knit and reserved, and you don't see him have a lot of super expressive emotional reactions, and watching Joel as he leaves this cabin start becoming overwhelmed with fear, and he can't really control it anymore, and his heart is racing, and Ellie picks up on it, and she's basically like, what's going on? And like, this is like smart. Like, in terms of storytelling, this is smart. Like, I really think like having Joel be a human being. He's not just a guy that can crouch all the time looking to shoot people, which is like how the game is. Like, he actually has emotion, and your body reacts to that. You can stuff that down as much as you want to, but eventually that's going to erupt out of you. And to have these scenes where this is beginning to affect him, his caring about Ellie, I think, is bringing all of this to the surface. He had pushed the loss of his daughter Sarah so far down, and all of his choices basically had been about trying to protect himself from being hurt again. And here he is basically forced to confront that pain, and that's because in order to love Ellie and to care about Ellie, he has to be able to grieve the loss of his daughter. Those two are very much connected to each other, and I think it's brilliant that they tied that in. Beautiful cinematography. This is one of the most gorgeous episodes I think they've filmed so far. Like, the scenes of the rivers and the mountains and that town they end up going to where they find Tommy, and just next level. Riding horses, with the sun setting and their campfires, and everything is just beautiful. The Aurora Borealis with Ellie while she's standing on the rocks and she's talking about how she wants to go to the moon, and Sally Ride is her favorite. And I loved like them having their little conversations, and Joel expressing that if they were able to find a cure, that he basically would want a little ranch and to be like a sheep farmer. Like, so that it's just neat. That's just awesome next level kind of stuff. So anyway, so that couple that they ended up holding hostage told them about the River of Death, and that they had to cross the River of Death, and nobody they knew really ever survived if they were to go across it. And when they do, they end up running into this band of people on horseback with guns. And there's this incredibly intense scene with this dog who can apparently sniff out cordyceps infections. And so the dog goes and smells Joel, and he's cleared. And then you can see Joel start having this panic attack again. And the dog then goes and confronts and smells Ellie. And you're like, ah, crap. We all know that she's infected, or she is, but she isn't, And is the dog going to be able to smell that? And so you end up like having this intense scene where, you wonder if like this dog's going to maul her. And you can see Joel is just, again, paralyzed by fear and is unable to act and do anything to protect her. And luckily the dog doesn't, and it ends up being this cute, like, I'm licking your face kind of scenario. And that's awesome. But yeah, it was intense. That was really well done too. And then they end up getting into that small little town in Wyoming, and Joel ends up running into Tommy again, which is awesome. And it's a really sweet reunion, and you can see like the emotion in Pedro's face as he's meeting his brother again, and his joy in that. Like, I came to save you, he says, right? Like, that's a big part of Joel's personality, is he needs to be saving somebody. and through that scene, like, you get to see the domestic bliss that this town has created for itself, this little commune where they share everything and they work together, and they're small enough to be able to do that. And Tommy has found a wife, and she's pregnant, and he's moving on with his life and is doing really well. And he has fantastic hair, like, and an amazing jacket, and I'm completely jealous of both. And and basically in this heart-wrenching scene, Joel basically asked Tommy to take over for him. Like, he doesn't feel like, with the panic attacks that he's experiencing, that he would be able to protect Ellie enough to get her to Colorado, which is where they need to go to find the Fireflies. And it is powerful. Like, Pedro's acting in that is really superbly done. Like, you can really feel his emotion and his sadness over his inability to save Sarah, his daughter, and then everything else since then. He feels like he has been an abject failure, and he doesn't want to fail Ellie. And it's a really powerful moment, and Tommy agrees to it, and Joel ends up having a confrontation with Ellie because she ends up overhearing the whole thing and understands that now he's basically abandoning her too. Like, she feels everybody's abandoned her whole life, and it's really heartbreaking to see that. And they have this, like, you're not my daughter, and I'm not going to do this for you. I'm not going through this. And Ellie at this point had just found out about Sarah. Like, she didn't know that Joel had a daughter. And she was like, basically, that explains a lot. And in this situation, they both, like, want so desperately to care about somebody, but have been hurt so much that they can't seem to move beyond that damage in order to form that real bonds they're both looking for. And, and you can see them pushing and fraying against one another in that scene. And then the real heartbreak to me was when, that next morning when they pan to Ellie in this bedroom that she's borrowing, this child's bedroom from a teenage girl prior to the outbreak, which is just such an amazing juxtaposition of the reality that they're in versus what was, which makes it even more heartbreaking. And she's sitting there and, she's fully dressed. Her backpack is fully packed. Her sleeping bag is rolled. She's got her hat on, her jacket zipped up. She is ready to go, and you just see this resolve in her to be done. And it's so sad. It's just so sad, because that she wishes her Joel was with her. And so they go with Tommy to go get on horses, and she finds Joel in the stable. And he's basically like, I was going to leave. I've been standing here for 30 minutes. And so I'm going to give you a choice. You can come with me or you can go with Tommy. And then she's just like, let's go, and throws her bag at Joel. And they saddle up and make it to Colorado. And they run into monkeys that have taken over the university, which is this amazing visual, and pulled from the game. And they end up being attacked by, I would call them, it's a good word, like Fallout calls them, starts with an R. Why can't I remember? Not rebels. Raiders, thank you. Raiders, call them Raiders. And yeah, so Raiders attack them basically, and Joel ends up being stabbed in the gut. And that's where the scene, or the episode, kind of leaves off. And there's this beautiful tie back. I don't know if you guys remember, I think it's from the first episode when they begin to leave and start walking off through the outskirts of Boston, and the city is destroyed and covered in greenery. And it's this my best friend going on a ride with my best friend. It's a Depeche Mode song. And then at the end of this episode, with Joel on the ground and Ellie like crying and touching his face, and I don't know what to do. I don't know what the fuck to do. And they play this I'm going on a ride with my best friend song again. And it's a remake from like a female artist, and it's beautiful and haunting, and it fits this perfectly. Like, these are the consequences for caring about somebody, is that you can have your heart broken, that you can lose and be destroyed by the love that you feel for somebody. but it has to be worth that risk, because otherwise you just are a shell your entire life. And what's the point in that? So again, another stellar episode. This is probably one of my top 3 of the 9 episode season. Of course, I haven't seen the last 3. Episode 7 promises to tell us Ellie's origin story, basically, of how she got bit. I'm looking forward to that. If you've played the game, it's a DLC, which was really good. And yeah, I hope this episode finds you well. I guess it is an episode. I hope this episode review finds you well. Leave your comments below. Be sure to like and subscribe. Stay awesome. Bye.